called meeting of the East Ridge City Council. We're here for two items of business. The first is to take action on fence and planting trees at Camp Jordan. The other would be to discuss and or take action on city manager applicants. Appreciate you all being here. If you would please stand and join me in the invocation of pledge. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, for all that you've done. Lord, we are so grateful for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. Thank you for the opportunity to live in this great city, in this great state, in this great country. Lord, we thank you for everyone who has sacrificed before us to allow us to enjoy the liberties that we have today. As we enter this called meeting, Lord, I just ask that you would have your hand upon each one of us, guide us and direct us in everything that we say and do, that it would be constructive and that we would accomplish the business that you have for us. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Janet, if we could have a roll call, please.
Mayor Lambert,
Here.
Vice Mayor Gravitt, Councilmember Cagle,
Here.
Councilmember Manning,
Here.
Councilmember Stoll,
Here.
Interim City Manager Williams,
Here.
City Attorney Norton.
All right, at this time, we will entertain communication from citizens. If you're a resident of the city of East Ridge or a business owner here in the city, and you have a comment, question, or concern you'd like to bring to the council in regard to the items on this agenda, this would be your opportunity to do so. You can approach one of the two microphones here at the front, state your name and address for the record. You would have 5 minutes. I see none. We will move on to the items of business. First item is discussion of the fence and planting trees at Camp Jordan.
We do have our prices locked in at $12 per tree for the trees up there. Nothing has changed on the fact that we already received the actual money, so we have the money as far as that goes. I know you and I both have talked to TDOT. TDOT's going to take care of us on the concrete things that we have and or that we need. The only change that we have, folks, is the fact that talking to Sue Henley and talking to the person, or Kim actually talked to the person at the place where we're getting the trees, they recommend that we waited too long and that we ought to go on and secure our trees to go through with it right now. And then what we need to do is have them delivered to us in October and plant them then. Said we got some dry weather coming up, and if you're going to plant 72 trees, we don't want half of them to die on us. So my recommendation would be that we go and take the fence down, sell the fence, have the stuff put up where they can't run out of the road and down the hill, and just actually leave it like that until we actually plant the trees in October.
And the concrete barriers from TDOT, Chris Smith from TDOT called me Tuesday and said that they had done some studies to see if there was any kind of utility lines there where they would potentially put a guardrail. And there is a water line and a gas line that's pretty close. And he said that he would not feel comfortable putting a guardrail there just because it goes in the ground, and if a car hits it hard enough, moves the guardrail, it could potentially hit one of those lines, and you turn what is a relatively small incident into a really big incident very quickly. So that's when he suggested we do these concrete barriers it's similar to what they use when they're doing road construction and to do lane shifts. He said that those absorbed impacts very well, and that it's very difficult to move those. So he thought that would be a good solution for that
He
area.
also said he lives on that hill, and he wouldn't recommend the guardrail because he don't want to get in the back of his house if we have a wreck up there. But they've been very nice to us with TDOT.
We will entertain a motion if council is.
Make a motion to approve. About fence,
Sure.
I know when we, the rose garden or the tree garden out there around the flagpole, there's supposed to be a black fence go around it.
Yes, sir.
Has it been?
Yes, sir. Well, here's what we're doing on that. We just completed this week our three flagpoles are they're where they're supposed to be. We've got the three big flags on the poles. It looks great down there. I contacted Maggie Burns this morning. I said, Maggie, we're running out of time on this budget. Something needs to be done. I need to go forward and get this fence up. Her and Sue Henley will meet me there tomorrow to make sure that, where the fence is going to go. We've got prices on the fence. We're prepared to order it. As I told them, they need to meet with me tomorrow because if we order it, it can be delivered on Monday. If not, we have to wait another week. And we're fixing it. Each week, we have more and more stuff going on in the park. And we have to pick our times to do this stuff. And this next week, we need to get it done. Their question was, they're putting in a blue-way marker, which you're familiar with the blue-way marker we have out here. And they were scared that they'd have to have a concrete truck. I don't think they need a concrete truck for a blue-way marker. They can have a couple of wheelbarrow loads of concrete and get that done. So to answer your question, in the morning, I will meet with those two, and then I'll be prepared to go in and order the 5-foot-high black fence at a price of $15.50. At $15.50 plus we'll have to pay to get it put up. And I think that will not be too much, because the guy's been putting up fences down there for us, has not broken the bank on anything he's done. He's been very reasonable.
We done took action on that amount of money, gave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You told me to, on that, you recommended we didn't go over $2,000, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm just double checking, see if we could take those actions tonight.
And that's a double wide gate as well as a single gate. And it looks really good there.
I make a motion.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion to approve what Stump has recommended. That would be taking the fence down now, selling it for whatever we get out of it, ordering the trees, but not having them delivered until October. And then having TDOT put in the concrete barriers there so no cars can come careening down the hill.
And rolling that check to my next year's budget.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Cagle?
Yes.
Councilmember Manning?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is to discuss and or take action on city manager applicants. We can give you a little backstory here. Staff has reached out to the people that we had identified last time and checked to see who's got the job already, who wants to continue to be considered. There are a handful that we either have gotten definitive word from that they want to no longer be considered, or we didn't hear from at all. Gary Palmer has asked that his resume be withdrawn. Brett Bauer has accepted another position. Nick Colungus has accepted another position. And then we received no response from William Watson and James Ayers. Okay, and I do want to say that, of course, the last time I told you, I think we had a couple of people who had got further down the road than I had. I had not had a chance to really reach out to the people that I mentioned. I just based mine on resume, cover letter, and so there are a handful of the people who have been talked about that I would like for council to look at. That's just my suggestions. Everybody can have their own. But I did want to add one name. We talked about the possibility of adding additional people if we wanted to. I had one name that I wanted to put in there. His resume is at the very back of the folder. His name is Robert Rakovich.
He's already took another job.
He has tentatively taken a job. And I talked, well,
I looked it up.
it has not been finalized.
Okay.
Yes, and so I told him today that I would, if he didn't mind, I would go ahead and put his name out there, and he was fine with that. So, but yes,
Is his application in this?
it's the very last one in the
That's
folder.
right around, Dallas and, Kent. Yeah.
Yeah. So, from our, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, from the list that we had identified previously, there it is. Sorry, I've got a lot of materials floating around here. The folks that I would like to bring in for interviews would be Mark Cudney, John Miller, James Ayers, Rob Rakovitz, the one I mentioned there, the late edition. And I had Gary Palmer on that list, and I had contacted him as recently as today. Apparently he's traveling, but he did get in touch with Trish and confirmed that he wanted to withdraw his resume. So, so those are the four that I've identified.
And I'll tell you, ones I've got picked, I've got John Miller, we've got Michael Brillhart, Mark Cooney, and that's all I've got. I'm just gonna read this one that you just put in there.
Okay.
My two was Manuel Miller and Chris Dorsey.
Okay.
I talked to both of them.
Okay. Mr. Cagle.
Well, I had 5 here, 2 of them's dropped out, so, Kelly Cox, William Watson, and Amanda Miller.
I have lost my knowledge too, but we haven't heard from him, so we don't know.
But we could still move to reach out to him. You know, if he turns us down, if we hear from him, if we never hear from him at all, then we'll strike him from the list, but we can still vote to at least attempt to bring him in.
I hope I pronounced Kelly's last name right.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yes. So, at this point, we can get into the specifics of resumes and qualifications if we want to. I would ask, and I don't necessarily see any applicants out here, except for Amanda. Before we get into that discussion, I mean, if you would feel more comfortable not hearing that discussion, then that's fine. If you want to, I want to give you the opportunity to do whatever you want to do. So,
And if she stays, please don't take nothing personal.
exactly right. We don't. No. At this point, I think we attempt to identify however many council would like. If we've got a person, and I think at this point, we've trimmed the list even further. And really, truly, we can talk about each individual and then simply have a vote as to, do we want to bring them in?
Who are we talking about bringing in?
Did Larry bring up, did you have 4 names or 3? I got you down as Miller, Real Hard, Cooney.
Yeah, and I had James Ayers too. Just like me. I left my original packet at home, I had all this, and yeah, I got one. Well, I didn't have, I had him on there too, so Watson's on there before, since he didn't call. Actually, I've got James Ayers, John Miller, Mark Cooney, Real Hard, and I haven't looked at this Robert guy, put him over there.
So at this point, I would say we'll bring in however many candidates council wants to bring in, and maybe we look at whoever gets multiple votes as someone who we can bring in. If you don't want to go quite that many, it looks like we may have 5 or 6 that want to do that. If you want to bring in 3 or 4 instead, then certainly we can do that and just make it whoever the top 3 vote getters are, and we'll move forward from there. Yeah, we can just dive in if you want to.
May I ask, why y'all should hire Mark Cutney? Because I read it now.
I think for me, let me find his resume real quick. For me, he does have both city manager experience and as an assistant or deputy. And he's served in a couple of other managerial type positions within municipal government, director of growth management, community development director, planning and development director. So he has some planning background. We talked a little bit about how maybe we need to look at bringing in some planning help, just to try to bring some shape to how the city develops and or redevelops from this point. So those were some of the qualities that I saw. I know the nature of the beast for city managers is that if you've got anyone that has experience, chances are they've been fired. And that's just somewhere, and that's just the way it is. Because councils turn over, and it could be as simple as, hey, I wasn't on the council that hired him. I want to select our own guy, and so they let a guy go. And that's just the way it is. It's a volatile, difficult profession. So, I think we will find a lot of these candidates have been fired from somewhere. And I think this is probably not an exception, this gentleman.
Well, the thing that turned me off on it is right here where he says he's an advocate of contracting our services out. Law enforcement, fire rescue, public work, code enforcement, engineering services, public services. So,
Yeah, and
that's the thing that turned me on, his
Where-
qualifications.
where are you seeing that? I'm sorry.
Town manager of town of Lochahatchee Grove, something.
That's a tough name.
Page that up.
It's on page 1,
Sure ain't hot, was it?
professional employment experience.
Now, kind of like Jackie, I don't think we need to turn nobody over. Oh, we got
It's
good staff.
general management, administrative duties, town clerk, finance, and then also the contract for other services out. So,
Well, it may, it could be that it's a situation too, I mean, until you talk to him, it's like a city, rich side, they're not, they don't have enough money, basically, I guess, to hire them, so it's kind of like they are, they come to another city, unless you talk to them, really find out.
it says right here that the population is 3,000 people, so.
Right, I'll say,
Yeah. 2,000 bedrooms, 12 and a half square mile town, so.
They probably got somebody in from the neighboring town. On the street side.
So it seemed like
In their
it's-
county, maybe doing the fire.
His experience is about the size of the city of Richmond.
Long Beach.
I mean, that's just my thought.
And I do, and that's part two of where I kind of go back to some of his previous experience. Belglade, a city of about 18,000, he was the deputy city manager there. The population's close to ours. Budget is pretty close to ours, $18 million. 92 full-time employees. And then he does have other management experience, not city manager or deputy manager, but development services director for the town of Davie, Florida, which is a much larger city, 90,000 population. It seems like he's got kind of he's got experience in small places, kind of medium size, and then as you start to get toward a larger, what I would consider larger, about 100,000 people. Certainly not major metropolitan, kind of thing, but still well beyond the size of what we are.
What I'd like to see, Mayor, happen, if we get somebody around here close, who knows how East Street operates. It's nice to get somebody who knows how East Street operates, take it on.
And I think there are positives and negatives to that.
I agree with you.
Do we have any other discussions on Mr. Cuddy?
Well, I think you picked kind of the same reason, we're looking for economic development, strategic planning. He's got your graduateship, project management. Some of the things that we're looking at. Looks like he's been kind of a little bit everywhere. These, comprehensive approach to code enforcement, is that something, I need to talk to him property maintenance, occupancy code, that's kind of what we're dealing with too, in these hotels, hotel deal. That's where he was, wasn't my first pick, but he's been my pick.
And then, I wasn't too impressed with John Miller because he's retired and now he's going back into the profession.
I talked to Mr. Miller, let's see, he now, does he live now, because I questioned about where he lived, I thought he was trying to find somebody, wouldn't bring him in real far. He said he moved to North Carolina, got a retirement home there, and he said he found out retirement wasn't for him, and he wanted to get back into city management. He had said he had some ties in this area. And I told him that, he was one of my picks and that I would bring him up, wouldn't guarantee him that he'd get called for interview, but he was one of my picks.
One of the things that I liked about Mr. Miller, it is just kind of a rare find, is that you look at his last position in Leavenworth, Kansas. He was there 8 years. And then going back to when he was city manager just down the road, College Park, he was there for 7 years, and then they apparently thought enough of him to bring him back for 10 more years. So he's got something that's pretty rare, as we talked about just a minute ago, and that is he's got a little bit of longevity in some of these places. So apparently he had a way of getting along with people, and even through the normal changes in the makeup of councils and all the rest.
He was 4 years of management.
Yeah, he's been city manager, right? It seems like in retirement, he says,
Most of the places he's worked, what we have. I mean, I like, I talked to, I like the boys. You got one of those. Seem genuine to me.
Okay. Okay, the next person in our packet, if we're ready to move on. If not, that's okay. The next person is Chris Dorsey.
Okay. Everyone brought Dorsey up. I have talked to him. And he is interested in working for the city of East Ridge. I know, rumor around he turned us down before. But we don't want to reason why I'm put up there as his business. Unless y'all want to, we can.
Well, that's fine if you know the reason.
What the reason was, when he had come once before, questions asked kind of in a hateful way to him. But he said, that's over with. And he's not mad at nobody. And another thing come up that's going around now, and some of the person don't, I'd rather it not be put in paper, so I'll talk to the council later about it. checked that out, that's a lie. And, there's another, I'll go ahead and tell you, the other rumor is, they say that the man was drunk, is not a drunk. And, so, you know, that's a bunch of rumors, is a bunch of lies, that's what it is. But he said he loved the city of East Ridge, he loved everybody here, all the council, and loved to be able to work with Mayor and you two, everybody. And I mean, just say council, I mean, you two.
Oh, sure.
And the lawyer. So Hal goes to sleep down here, I mean, him too. But he said he looked forward like to come. I know talks to folks that he had been to, and they loved his work. And one time he went, I know when he went to Red Bank, they probably had to close the doors because it got down slow in their finances. And he brought it back up in less than 6 months. Really brought the town back up, and he really got it going. And that's what we need, somebody who's got a little bit of ego about it, won't see go forward instead of going backwards, and that's the way I look at it. We need to go, like you said many times, Mayor, we want to go frontward instead of backwards. And also, Amanda's been here for years and years, and I feel like she takes forward too, same way. I feel the way with that book.
Okay. Thank you, sir. As far as Chris goes, I like Chris Dorsey personally. I think he's a good fella. I think he did good work in Red Bank. You know, Jackie, you may have been here during those interviews.
Oh, I said right out there.
Right, yeah.
There's 5 old folk, you know, hired it, we got turned down.
Exactly. And that's, and
Yeah.
I don't mind telling you that was a bitter pill to swallow. That we offered him $120,000 a year, and he told us no so that he could take a job somewhere else for $90,000. That it's hard not to be insulted by that. And again, I like Chris. That, I'm afraid, is more than I can overcome personally. I just, you know, he didn't want to be here. So I guess I'll oblige.
It's like, well, it's kind of like you said a while ago. Everybody that come and left, we've been turned down by a lot of people too, on top of that too. But I'm this way, you know, everyone makes mistakes. And that's a mistake he made. And he said, he apologized for it, and he said he'd like to have another change to show us what he could do.
But that's a fair point.
You know.
It's a fair point. We all make mistakes and have lapses in judgment.
Yeah. I do, I'll say I do.
No,
I won't say y'all do, I'll say I do. That's all.
we have. Okay. Do we have any other comments on Mr. Dorsey? All right. The next resume in the folder here is James Ayers. And initially, I liked it, but I didn't include him on my first list. And so when Larry mentioned him, I went back and kind of reread. And so I think I've come around. I think it would be worth bringing him in to talk to him. Was assistant town manager in Bluffton. He's currently general services director in Asheville, North Carolina, which, as we know, is a good-sized city. has quite a bit of private sector experience as well. Has some, if you look back at his continuing education, he's got some certifications, economic development in South Carolina, a certificate of public works management, University of Georgia. So he's got a good skill set, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And he's, you know, kind of caught my ear work, having to deal with WGA and all that. And he had some work he did with the sewer water projects, places, and he's just kind of an all-around candidate, I thought. He just,
I would like to ask one question, Mayor,
Yes.
if it's okay.
Sure.
About, if we can bring Mr. Dorsey in, we'd like to sit down and talk to him. Okay.
Well, yeah, we'll decide that as we get down to work. Sure, sure.
And man in the military, both of them.
We did not hear from Mr. Ayers when, I guess Trish Newton had contacted. Okay, we did not hear back from him. So if we choose to reach out again and try to bring him in for an interview, if we don't hear from him, obviously we won't bring him in. And it could be that he's traveling or on vacation or who knows what. So again, that's one of the people that we did not hear back from.
Do you have any idea what we're going to spend to bring these people in?
No idea at this point.
I think last time we initially Skyped, first it was 4 weeks with some of them.
There were some of them did.
I like having run into something. We did.
Of course, the last time we had 2 rounds of interviews.
Yeah.
Really 2 different segments of interviews. And I think we did try to do Skype the first time. I don't think we did that the second go round. And we re-advertised.
And had a travel budget.
Right. So that would certainly be within the realm of possibility, though. We could attempt to Skype and get down to just a couple of people, or maybe one that we wanted to bring in. Council can certainly decide that as we go along.
Y'all may remember Skyping that we're interviewing, and y'all, and the phone rings, he gets up, he's got on shorts, and he goes, oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that's
Work yourself out, that would be.
Yeah.
I'd like to have Mr. Watson run. He has the education, familiar with payroll, human resources, personnel management. He's also familiar with MTAS and our PML program.
Okay.
I've been in Ray County working with the school board system.
We're going down the list.
Well, I was just going by the order. I don't know if everybody's order is the same as mine.
Mine don't make sense too.
Okay, so we can just kind of go however we want to
How many
at this
we got?
point. Well, I want to talk about each of the candidates that we've identified here so that everybody can know
What's that?
what we're thinking, what whoever said, I'm for this person, why are you for that person? So
I
let's,
don't know if any of y'all remember reading Kelly Cons is the thing there, but she is a full-time lawyer, owns her own law firm. She's 4 years married down in Snellville, Georgia. And 2006 to 2011, she was on the city council down there, so she's familiar with everything that we go through.
and that is something that kind of drew me to her as well. was that experience. She knows what it's like to sit up here.
Yeah, yeah, she's been there and she's been here.
I did have a chance to go through and do a few more, I guess, background type searches as best I could, at least. And I found a couple of things that were issues that I suppose raised a red flag with me. Would rather not get into the specifics of those, but I can point you to where I found that. And so.
Well, I think I know what you're talking about.
So it's
Okay.
right. You know, and sometimes
You and I are talking the same thing.
I think so. Yeah. So, but I think again, I'll just leave it at that. And if you need,
If you want to know, go ask.
that's right.
Mayor, I've got Michael Grillhart, I don't know if anybody else picked him or not, but he is areas, strategic planning, legislative affairs, economic development, fiscal management, budgeting, and he's 213 to present right now, county administrator, 215,000. He was county administrator before that, Lucid County, Florida, 2004 to 2013. He had a lot of activity, I guess you'd say. Chief Administrative Office, Orlando, Florida. He was there 4 years. He had one place in Paris, Illinois, just 2 years there. Bachelor's of Science, Government Administration, Master's of Public Administration.
He has very impressive qualifications. He does.
And I haven't read this one here, but since you mentioned him, I'll let you read that.
A little bit more last time.
Mr. Brillhart, it was another one of those instances where, just doing some Google searches, found something. Some things that could be questionable. Again, is there a whole lot to it? I don't know. I don't know that we can get a real good sense just from.
Something I can ask you about later.
You could.
Well, we're not up here to try to embarrass him.
That's exactly right.
You know,
Yeah, we don't want
It's
to.
not that we're trying to do something behind the scenes.
We don't want to beat on anybody. But at the same time, I think if one of us finds something that raises a red flag to us, I think we're obligated to tell the others, hey, found something that I'm not quite sure about.
You can look here for yourself.
You're talking, you mentioned, go ahead.
I just, so you're talking about Google searches that are publicly accessible by
Yes,
anyone.
exactly.
No, you have to mention Amanda's thing here, and I've read it, and I seen the little thing where we sent it out, and she wasn't rated very high. But the question, the 3 years experience, well, I feel like she's got the 3 years experience of supervision.
No more.
And another thing, she's presently an employee with the city of East Ridge. We all know her, we know her educational background. We know what she can do in writing and receiving our grants. And I feel like she can just, if she gets the opportunity, she can just walk right in. There will not be no time wasted with her having to go around and meet all the employees, meet the council, because she already knows us. And let's see, and I feel like she can do the budget. And she, none of these others that I've read are familiar with Board of Regents. She she's got a little head start there. She knows about the economic development. So, I'd like to give her a chance for interview.
Actually, I don't have my notes with me, like I said, I left. There is one fellow that, it's not the board of regents, but it's something that was like the board of regents to do with the park system that they did. He was familiar kind of with that. And that being, you know, board of regents part is only really in the state of Tennessee, so we got a lot.
And you know, certainly, I think Amanda does a good job. You know,
I know Ms. Wheeler thought the world of it, so.
and
Mike, let me,
yes,
how many we have between, so much is big, the same thing. So many you got done, you picked one. that-
Watson.
Watson.
What you and I got.
How many we got?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that had multiple, hey, I've got them on my list.
Why don't we just go ahead and just take all those 6? Well, we got others that wasn't picked. Oh, now everybody's we picked between.
There were 3 that I've got, that I've marked. Someone can correct me if they've got a different tally. 3 that someone said, I'm for them, but it was only one person that said that. And that's Brillhart, Dorsey, and Kelly Cox. The other,
And you got, and you said there's 2 there. I need to ask him and then ask you.
and Brillhart was one of those.
One of them, okay.
And Cox is actually the other one. Yeah, so those 2 have just one vote.
So that would be, how many total then after those 2 were out?
It's still at 6.
6.
Who are the 6 now?
The 6, again, if I've got it right, John Miller, I think he goes by John, he signed J. Scott Miller, whichever you prefer to refer to him as. James Ayers, Amanda Miller, William Watson, Mark Cutney, and if I heard you correct at the end of what you said, Rob Rakovitz. Okay. So those would be the 6 that.
How about Mr. Dorsey?
And Mr. Dorsey only has 1 at this point. Brillhart, Dorsey, and Cox have 1. And then the others have either withdrawn or have no one actively saying, I think we need to bring this person in. Mike, which ones did you have? Have a compare here. I've only got it.
Then Ayers and Watson's might end up being a no too, since they didn't respond.
Yeah, it may take a couple days to,
Yeah.
that one,
I'm sorry, Jackie, what was that?
I said, Ayers and Watson, since they didn't respond, then they might be a no-show too, so.
They could.
And that'll cut it forward.
I think that's probably a good way to go. Is look at those 6 that have multiple votes and go that way. I think so. Unless council wants to, any council member could make a a last ditch appeal to have someone on there. And have 6 as well. Yeah. Miller, the 6 that have multiple votes, essentially. Miller, Ayers, well, 2 Millers, sorry. John Miller, James Ayers, Amanda Miller, William Watson, Mark Cutney, and Robert Rakovitz.
We're gonna call them in or dial
It's up to council.
them. Can we
I'd go
say?
see it face to face.
Well, just before, I think we need to do, because Amanda, if she gonna be here, we can't hear on Skype her or something, but we need to be clear.
You can just Skype me from my office. It's fine.
The same way with Watson Club.
Yeah, Watson will be up here in Ray County. Yeah. And,
Rakovitz is Atlanta, basically, just south of Atlanta.
Alpharetta.
Then y'all need to consider, as you did the last time, the travel expenses. In other words, somebody coming from, I don't know, whether Father's got Florida or something like that, we put him up.
What is the government, I mean, what is it, miles?
What do we get paid? Didn't have to go.
What
We
is
did
it?
them, excuse me, the last ones we did, we paid them like employees, the same travel policy that we use for per diem.
Right.
And then we paid for their hotel rooms if they spent the night.
Did we pay for the food?
Last time,
It's in, it's gonna put it in Cascades.
last time, the council's got to cut it down to 3, to 5. Paid the expenses on the second time, 5.
Yeah, I would just assume,
I go
bring
look-
them all in.
I'm saying, well, I go look at them highlight that way, you know, whether up or they, so it might be in Jones.
You can also judge some level, I guess, of how bad they want it. Are they willing to trek in to do it?
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
don't know.
We need a motion on that, or we can.
Yeah, we would need a motion on how to proceed and what the budget would be for.
Well, it all depends, if you're gonna do it one time, you're gonna pick a final candidate from the 6. That's one thing. If you're gonna do it though, compare the 6 down to 3 or whatever, or you bring them in a second time, you're gonna pay the same expenses the second time.
Do we have to do it twice, or can we do it once?
You can do it, whatever the council's,
I think we
if
need
you feel
to do it
comfortable
one time.
after one meeting with 6 people.
If we can't figure them out one time, we ain't gonna know them the second time. Let's say the city. man.
And we could identify, I mean, we kind of had a little bit of this debate before Andrew Hyatt was hired, because we identified him from the first interview, and then we had an internal debate as to, okay, do we want to bring him in one more time before we actually extended an offer? And we did not. We just went ahead and extended the offer. So we can do that same thing, and from this round of interviews say, okay, who's the person that
We got
out of
6.
this that we want? And we could do that. We could also just look at one and say, this is the person that kind of stands out.
Yes, I-
On the ad that we put out, did it have a job salary range?
I thought we discussed it when you got it.
No.
Did not.
Because, on all that, I read, none of them even mentioned salary range, so.
No, but we talked to them about salary, I think, wasn't it, when they got it. So,
I think that was part of the discussion that we had once they came in.
And one consideration y'all may remember, the last time when we had the initial cut list, to try to find, and one reason we did this Skype is because it was like herding cats trying to get one day and one time that they all could be here coming in from different parts of the country. That may be the case here. It may be a while before they can all be here at the same time, the same place. So y'all may want to have that.
We've got one that's retired, he's in North Carolina, we've got one in where, Atlanta,
Watson's in,
Washington is right, yeah.
Boston, right in.
what's the name of it?
I don't, Now, I don't want to rush the process, but at the same time, I would like to try to schedule these folks very soon. And I'm saying a week, 10 days.
Well, I know they've been waiting, some of them have been waiting since December.
Right. Right. And I think that's why we had 3 off of our list that have already found other jobs. Off of that first
Like I
cut.
told you, I thought, so I could be taken.
Right, right. Yeah, so, I think the longer we delay, the harder it gets for us.
More, I think they need to be notified that they're in the top 6 and that.
Well, let's, let whoever it is call them, give them the next council meeting, and then they bring us back a list of who they've got in touch with, and their response, and for a no-show or no response, scratch them off.
I think they need to email them and call them.
Well, I think the council needs to set a specific meeting that we invite them to that specific meeting that day and time.
How would you all be with a window of April 28th through April 30th? 3-day period there.
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
That's a Thursday through a Saturday, if we can find a date in there.
So that's our next council meeting, next
It would be.
Thursday, the 28th. So then we would know if they got in touch with them and responded.
Hey, why don't we do it on a weekend? That's easy for everybody. That way, people working, we're off. They're gonna be off if they're still working, most likely. Do it on a Saturday. That way, I get the Sunday to go home.
I have to work the first part of the next 3 Saturdays, but I would be available like late afternoon and into the evening, if that works for everybody.
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
It'd probably be a little later.
It's about 5, 6,
Probably could start about 4.
Let me ask this way. Could we start on Friday and work through on Saturday?
We could potentially shoot for span it over 2 days. Do 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday night. Now, not that we would want to spend our Friday and Saturday nights doing that, but yeah, it's hard enough to try to work them into the schedule as it is. We may really have no alternative but to try to do something like that.
I'd like to make a motion, we do it on Friday and Saturday. Maybe, what time do you say you can get out?
I could be here at 4 o'clock on Saturday.
Okay, you said at 4 o'clock on Friday.
I can't be here for
What time
Friday,
you here?
on Friday. Well, I mean, I get off the bus at 4 or something.
All right.
It's gonna be
Well,
5.
How about we make it kind of uniform, 6 o'clock, maybe Friday night? And we could try, if you wanted to, 5 or 6 on Saturday. Because really, I mean, you're thinking, an interview, you might have an hour per candidate. You got 3 candidates per night, so you're probably looking at about 3 hours.
That'd be our locals, be Friday night. Get the ones a little further out to drive after Saturday.
Yeah, they can Friday afternoon, get in here Saturday.
Yeah, probably.
And I make a motion, we do it that way.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We will have to determine what the budget would be for allowing expenses.
If you stay, we'll pay lunch. Maybe 15%.
We pay the federal rate, and then we'll pay for their hotel if they spend the night at the hotel rooms.
Okay, that works for me.
What's the federal rate? Yeah,
We had a limit on it last time, it seems, and the question was, I thought we talked about somebody coming up from Atlanta, does he need to spend the night?
Going out ready for fast traffic.
That's, yeah.
At least if we do it on Friday and Saturday, and then give them a chance to get back on Sunday and rest, and go to work on the following Monday.
29th, that's next Friday, right?
April. You will? April 29th, April 30th.
Would be, 6 o'clock on Friday. Now, you make it
Yes.
earlier, I got 30 minutes.
Just for the ease and consistency of it, how about, let's say, 5:30 Friday, since we started this at 5:30. Let's say 5:30 on Friday, 5:30 on Saturday,
No problem.
and we go till we're finished. And now, would,
I've got something, that's fine, I'll work on that.
Sure.
That's not fair.
well, the,
That'll give Larry a chance to get off the bus, and Mayor, they give you a chance to get off from work, and give Tony time to come out of court.
well, I do want to encourage everyone, as we start looking at questions that we might ask, it's really important that we ask each candidate the same questions.
That's what we did last time.
Right. And so if you've got a question about economic development that you asked to the first candidate, that same question needs to get asked to all six.
Are we bringing in 6 or?
It is 6. It's 6. Yeah, so presumably 3 Friday, 3 Saturday. We had a motion. Did we get a second?
Second.
We have our second. Any questions?
What time was it, Saturday?
We could do 5:30 and 5:30. Okay. We have no other questions? Have roll call, please.
Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. All right. Thank you all for being here this evening.